Hey friends, and welcome back to Hot News. Hope you're having a good Tuesday. Hope your Monday was fantastic. You got back to work, you enjoyed that nice first sip of coffee, and then realized your existence is just a drudgery. But that's where Hot News comes in to spice it up. You know what? No offense if you actually love your job. I know Reece doesn't. Yeah, I don't want to exclude people. Well, that segues aside, let's go ahead and talk about my sponsor, which is me, for the things that we're doing, which is a podcast. We are starting a brand new podcast where we're going to be interviewing the hottest and greatest content creators we can find, and we already have our first episode up on YouTube as a standalone video, as well as on the major podcasting platforms. The link for that will be in the video description. It's called Random Access, and our first guest was none other than We Do Tech. So if you guys are interested in learning more about behind the scenes from Hanu's life, the owner of We Do Tech and the channel runner, then you can watch the interview. You listen to the interview. It's a podcast. We'll have more guests coming soon. Anyways, check that out down below. And let's talk about the thing that this video is actually about, which is Intel. What the crap, man? Why? Do you not have your own ingenuity? You got to be hiring out from everybody? You really need to soak up every single gosh dang talent that might be out there, and you don't give a rip about anybody else, which is what we have now with the latest acquisition by Intel, and it's none other than AMD's RTG digital marketing leader. And it's another long line in the list of people that Intel has stolen. Let me just recap for you everybody that Intel has grabbed. They grabbed Raja Koduri from AMD. They grabbed Chris Hook from AMD. They grabbed Tom Peterson from Nvidia. They got Mark Taylor from Nvidia. They got Jim Keller, who was working with Apple and Tesla and was one of the major architects behind Zen and is the whole reason that AMD even has a CPU set up right now. Oh my gosh. And then, not to mention, they picked up all of the freaking people in journalism with Ryan Shrout, Alvin Malventano, and then Kyle Bennett from Hard OCP. And so they are just stealing everybody. However, while they are taking another person from AMD, Heather Lennon, so to speak. Why is that so to speak? That's her name. The comments that I've been reading on various different places are like, good. Like, AMD didn't know how to market a GPU anyways, so stealing their marketing person is like, cool, you're grabbing the crappiest bunch if you actually want to market a GPU, because Vega was poorly marketed, so was Polaris, and then Radeon 7, oh my gosh, if Heather was at all involved in the marketing of Radeon 7, wow. Intel, the scrappy come from behind fighter syndrome doesn't really work when you're one of the largest companies in the world, okay? So yeah, I think the marketing people such as Chris Hook and Heather Lennon are gonna have to learn how to market from ahead. Or it could just be that AMD didn't have the resources or cared about marketing, because it kind of seemed like that, and she just had a job title, but not really many resources to do her job with. And going to Intel might be a great relief for her, and to actually be professional, because AMD sucks. I'm just triggering everybody. All right, let's move on. So let's go ahead and talk about the Steam hardware survey that just came out. And you know, it shows all of the usual suspects. You got Intel at the top of the CPU division. And actually the interesting stuff is that the average core count on a CPU right now is going up. So right now, the vast majority of people have 55% have 4-core CPUs, but 6-core CPUs actually saw a pretty decent 12% increase in market share, and then 8 cores saw a 2% uplift. How much of that is AMD and how much of that's Intel? You know, who cares? If you take a look, AMD's market share hasn't increased that substantially on Steam, so and neither has Nvidia's. It's still about the same, but considering that AMD launched the Radeon 7, they're not really moving anywhere. And then Nvidia not really moving anywhere with their RTX and GTX announcements or releases. It's kind of, wow, this is all showing us that everything's the same and nobody's buying new cards, even though the market share of the GTX 1060 has gone down by 0.5%. But while we're talking about Steam, let's talk about how they're dying, at least according to an ex-developer from Valve, saying that Steam was killing PC gaming because they're offering draconian rates for game publishing. 30%, please. That's like asking video game makers to make it for beans and noodles. It's ridiculous. And now Epic Games comes along saying I have a peanut butter sandwich, and all of the game developers are like, yes, I will take that PB&J, thank you so much. And it's a well-deserved loss to Steam, at least according to the Valve person, saying that the 30% revenue share was unsustainable. and it looks good compared to 50% at retail, but now that Epic Games is like 12%, it looks pretty terrible. And then further on saying that Steam will be for indie, second tier, shovelware, and porn, while Epic and other launchers will be for AAA games. That's a hot take. What are your opinions? Let me know down below. I'm curious. What do you think of the Epic Game Store? Like, obviously, it's annoying to have your games spread across all of this different area, but the fact that it means that game developers are going to be able to get more profit out of their games and thereby be able to store it and fire everybody. You know, we would like to make the argument that they're going to make more games with that money and be like, yeah, we have more cash so we can invest. But really, they're just going to hoard it all and then do massive rounds of layoffs if this year was any indication. That's my hot take. Let's hot take on some RTX stuff. We've got Nvidia, a deep dive into the Nvidia architecture Turing. I mean, what exactly is going on with this gigantic die size that we got from the new RTX series of cards, because the theory and the speculation was that it's the RTX portion of these chips that's making it so much bigger, but it turns out that no, in fact, most of the space on the Turing chips is not dedicated to RTX at all. That only accounts for a 22% increase, but the rest is reserved for the increase of performance and caches and larger instruction sets. And so it's actually just a different architecture altogether and just big. And it's not tensor cores taking up that much size, but that explains why they're so expensive. And then we have a fresh new rumor from WCCF Tech about everybody's favorite graphics card, the 2070 Ti. Yes, my friends, it's been spotted on the user bench database that there is an RTX 2070 Ti. Obviously, this could be Nvidia's move to kind of compete with Navi once it launches, and they know that they have everything already lined up to beat AMD, and they just have to release the 2070 Ti, just like they did with the 1070 Ti when the Vega 56 and 64 came out, because the 1070 was slightly worse than the Vega 56, but the 1070 Ti slapped it in the face. Maybe that's what's happening with the 2070 Ti. Maybe it's a misspelling error, or maybe it's just non-existent at all and it's just another rumor. Your thoughts, let me know. But you know what's not my thought, or I guess Nvidia is a thought? Is that not okay? Should we say that? Reece allows it. So Nvidia doing some shady moves with the lower end tier of stuff. You remember the whole GT 1030 controversy where there was a DDR4 edition and they weren't exactly letting people know that it was worse. And the MX 150, there were two different versions. One was worse than the other, but there was no disclosure. Well, they're back at it again with the MX 250, and one being completely different than the other and based on different TDPs of 10 watt or 25 watt. And it looks like there's about a 30% performance difference between the two. So yeah, do some research about figuring out which one it has, because if they don't disclose it, the only way to find it is to buy it and then open up GPU-Z. So enjoy that. And you know what else you should enjoy? Aida64 updating to support all of the Ryzen 3000 series chips that we're expecting, whether it's Threadripper 3rd gen, Ryzen 3000, the Zen 2 Epic stuff. You got Castle Peak, Rome, and Matisse being added to Aida64, which is pretty cool. And then we reported in the previous hot news that Apple is looking at Intel being like, yo, your 5G modems are really shady. You don't look like you're able to do the job. You sure you can do it? Well, Huawei has responded by saying, yo, we got 5G modems right here, Apple. Hey, we'll sell them only to you, okay? We want you to use our 5G modems. Whether or not that's because they know that Apple is probably one of the most sold phones in the entire world, and if they install their spyware 5G modems from the Chinese government, then everybody's data gets collected to them and sent to the overlords. It could be that, or it just could be that it's a really great business move and that there actually is no spyware. Your hot take down below. This is a fun episode. Speaking of Apple being abandoned, abused, taking advantage. Anyways, Netflix has removed the ability to use AirPlay to send your Netflix shows to your Apple TV, and this is because of licensing changes that have happened with AirPlay that allows them to be used on what I guess Netflix is referring to as non-certified devices, and so you can't actually use AirPlay with Netflix, even though Chromecast is a similar setup, and like the receiving device of the Chromecast isn't a certified device, but anyways, I guess this applies to smart I don't know. This is dumb. Netflix just want to flex, I suppose. Not earn that revenue from that sweet AirPlay money. And then speaking of sweet money, Bang & Olufsen has released a new OLED TV that has one of the weirdest Transformer aesthetics you've ever seen, because its speakers flop out to make the TV stand, and then it turns it into something that stands tall as opposed to being on the ground. And why? If you're spending this much freaking money on a TV and a sound system. You ain't doing this. It's $20,000. You're gonna buy an OLED TV and then you're gonna buy a sound system. You don't need it integrated. It doesn't look better. Actually, it would be more impressive if you had a banging sound system with giant freaking tower speakers and all that kind of stuff. Or you could go for the discrete stuff that's like in the ceiling. Either way, no. Maybe it's because I'm poor people. But also, maybe because I'm poor people, Red just released the Hydrogen 1 Titanium, finally, the $1,600 smartphone. After one, it was delayed for several months and they actually ended up giving everybody who ordered the Titanium another phone for free from Red. Or it could be that they've already kind of canceled all of the add-in devices that they were supposed to be making for the Hydrogen 1 and now it's a useless phone that people have spent $1,600 freaking dollars on. I'm poor people. I don't understand this kind of stuff. Anybody could see this coming. Like when I saw that they were releasing it and that it was gonna have add-on items, I was like, this is dead. This is dead on arrival. There's zero chance this is gonna work. And you always have hope because it's a big company, but then they didn't even make the camera in the freaking phone, which is the whole point of Red in the first place. Moving on, Twitter is trying to combat spam efforts of followers or people who just constantly hit follow to get you to follow them back and then they unfollow you and then follow you again. I know who you are, please stop it. I've already muted you, you following me does nothing. Anyways, the amount of accounts that you can follow per day is now decreased from 1,000 to 400. So yeah, if you feel the need to follow 400 people, I'm not sure what you're doing with your life. I think I have like 88 people that I follow, and even that's too many. I call that regularly. I don't need that many people's input in my life. Like if I want to engage with people, I don't need to follow them. And then Netflix and Intel are going to be doing runs of trying out the AV1 codec for content streaming. This is something that we talked about YouTube testing out a while ago. Apparently it makes things look better. In case you're interested, we'll leave a link in the video description for you to learn more about the AV1 codec. And talking about codecs and streaming stuff, Razer yesterday announced their Razer Ripsaw HD, which is an external capture card, which now thankfully has USB Type-C because the previous one had that like really bad USB 3.0 connector that is easily breakable and weird and gigantic. Anyways, Type-C has 4K pass-through, can record up to 1080p 60, and comes in at a price of, I believe, $160. Yeah, that's the price. So it's a pretty good external solution. I'm just excited because it has Type-C. That makes me happy. And then to know that the next generation is well and truly just the most debaucherous and lost generation that has ever come. This makes millennials look like saints, okay? This makes millennials look as if they care about life, okay? This makes millennials look as if they actually have jobs in this economy because a new survey has come out showing that 86% of US teens plan to choose an iPhone as their next smartphone. 86%. Out of 8,600 teens surveyed, 86% want an iPhone. We are screwed. Like, I'm pretty sure if you look in the book of Revelation, you look at one of the like little, footnotes, addendums in there, it's just like when the Apostle John wrote this on the Isle of Patmos, he meant that teenagers are gonna buy iPhones and the world's over. The end. That entire story is to say that hot news is over. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content and, Bible prophecy-related doomsday stuff. I'm pretty good at that. I'll tell you what, I like conspiracies and I like Christian conspiracies even more. I'm Brett with the UFD Tech Channel. You just been duped into watching something you shouldn't have, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you too.